Sarah Teresa Cook, welcome to Writers in Relationship.
Hello, Gail. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, there's been a lot of build up to this conversation, and I'm a little nervous, but I'm very excited, and I'm so happy you said yes. That's the main thing.
I think this has been a long time coming, and actually, one of the questions I was thinking about this morning is like, how did we land on this topic that we're about to talk about? And I was thinking back to something that you published maybe like months ago about what it looks like to establish a good relationship with your editor. And you were
Oh,
talking about like the importance of editors being honest with readers. And I think I even commented on that post and said, I'm having like a lot of big feelings about this. Like we should talk at some point. And so I
oh yes, I do remember. Yeah. I
yeah,
remember
so
that.
I am realizing like, oh, this has been like a long time coming.
Yeah. So I always, I mean, I'm going off my usual format because typically I have a list of questions and that's all about that. But I always do start with, so tell the people who are watching and listening the story of our relationship and how we know each other. And I was thinking about it. I don't even remember. Do you
I
remember?
I have no I have no memory. I it's like and also I feel like as time has gone on, there's been this increasing like voraciousness between us.
It's a
And
good way to describe
I
it.
and I'm just like, was there a time before that? I don't know. I don't know. I
Right.
mean, obviously it was Substack where we found each other, but
Right.
beyond that, I
Well, I started reading you, and specifically looking for neurodivergent autism
mm,
writers.
mhm.
And I fell in love with your writing. Still am deeply in love with your writing. I have a wicked writer crush on you. I will admit it. No, really, like super, like, and it's really hard for me in like I've cut way back on Substack, and I have like three or four subscriptions that I pay for, and yours is one. And I like love when the money gets deducted from my account. I'm like, I love paying for this. And then the post, and then like I read you, and it's magnificent writing. And so and also we have a similarity in that we had, I mean, I don't have a formal diagnosis, but my son was diagnosed and I was informally diagnosed. And we have a lot of
Totally.
that parallel. And reading a lot of your, I think you did almost a, was it like a journal, a neurodivergence journal?
I did, yeah, a kind of a series, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I love that and related to a lot of it, and learned, and there was some differences in our stories that were really interesting. So that was a big part of
Mm,
and just making the experience of late diagnosis. And there's a lot of times when people don't get it, people who have little experience with this particular, there's a lot of us who are parents who, come to this through our kids.
mm,
But
mhm.
people outside who don't have a lot of experience with autism are like, you're normal, like you don't seem autistic at all. And
Yeah.
you have a lot, you talk about that indirectly, I think, a lot. And
Mhm.
have talked about the 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 inner, I'm talking a lot here, but the felt experience of what you're talking about, and the perceived experience, and the sometimes I don't know if this is actually true, but like that rubbing against each other.
100%. In fact, I'm sort of like grateful that you're naming that because I think I'm realizing that is like one of the biggest sources, has been one of the biggest sources of like agony in my
Mm.
life. This almost like philosophical quandary of like, no, there's like a thing inside me that I'm so desperate for people to see, but it would have to be a different thing for it to be visible. Like its invisibility is almost like part of its DNA.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think and that's a really interesting thing. It's really interesting to notice like, oh yeah, I can see how I've grappled with that my whole life. And then, the framework of autism comes into play and it's like, oh my God, it suddenly makes sense. Like, oh, that's what that thing is, that like grappling. I think that's why so many late diagnosed people, formally, informally, whatever, experience so much like relief and joy at it, because I see people being confused by that too. Like,
Hmm. Hmm.
and it's like, well, because when you like don't have language for something that impacts your life daily and depthfully, and then you have find language for it, like you kind of want to party. Like it's like
Totally
this.
want to party. And I don't know if you've had this experience. I just like, I want to name it every single time it happens. Like we were with friends last night and I did something socially awkward that was, and I'm like, that's so fucking typical. So I said, oh my God, there it is. The awkwardness. Like I bungled that so badly. And the person that I was with, she's very sensitive. She's like, you're too self-critical. And I'm like, that's no, no, that's not it. No, it's this thing of like, I finally have the
Yep.
language
Yeah.
to get myself. And it was that sense of like, I just want to like say it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And it's not, yeah. And that distinction feels important too. Yeah. No, it's not criticism. It's just like, no, no, this is me. And I understand what I'm doing and why it's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
And then there is almost a joyfulness in it. Like I'm dorky and I'm awkward and it's because I'm autistic and I know that now, so it doesn't have to be a problem. It's the opposite of that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
So yeah, so and autism is, I'm gonna loop this around a little bit. So Aaron, my partners said, about my autism, he's like, I used to think that you were a great communicator and a very honest person because you had good principles. And now I know that it's just because you're neurodivergent. Um, and that's gotten me in trouble a lot in the past. It's also been a source of lots of intimacy and authentic relationships and all kinds of great things. And the
Yeah.
one part that's gotten me in trouble is in this situation where I'm with another artist and they say, I want your honest opinion, and I give it, and it's not, that's
Yeah.
not actually what was wanted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we had something happen, and I just sort of realized in me, like, my and I have an ego and I typically want to be told that my thing is the best thing since sliced bread. But my deeper desire in this, I'm turning 59 in a couple weeks, and my deepest desire in this phase of my life is to hear other people's truth in the relationship and to understand whatever they're experiencing and to be able to exist in my truth too.
Mm.
And so there's this, and it's a very difficult thing when you want to be both supportive and also honest.
Yeah.
And so that's the frame for this conversation. And you've been both a writer as well as a coach
Mhm.
and an MS. You have an MSW, right?
I
Or
don't know,
you
but I,
do, but you're a
I,
social worker, aren't you? Or you were?
yeah, I did. I was in social work for a long time and did like case management and stuff. So I was never, I was just in positions where on-site training, I got like a QMHA qualification. It's boring stuff, but no, I just went in through a different door.
Okay, but you were in, excuse me, in support roles.
Yeah.
Work. I mean, so you.
Yes. Intense one-on-one case management work, like housing advocacy stuff, working with foster youth. Yeah, was like really thoroughly trained in both trauma-informed care practices and like using a strengths-based lens,
Mhm,
particularly
mhm.
when working with youth, although I feel like adults need that as well. um, yeah, and all of that informs how I mentor, how I coach, and how I read people's writing. And that's where I have found that it has been the most important because I do work with so many people who the primary experiences that they've had being read have been corrective ones.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, sometimes we mess things up on the page and there's a way to fix it or make it better, but when that's the only lens through which your writing has been read, I mean, I do think it's not very nurturing. I do think it can shut things down.
Yeah.
And the other piece about all of this, oh, my brain's going in like there's like, I want to say like six different things to
Right. You have the
name.
space. Just
Well, I just,
have at
there's
it.
something here too about like, well, it's the relationship piece.
Mhm.
And it's the ability to look at someone's writing holistically which isn't, I never want to coddle, I never want to be dishonest. But like one thought I've had lately is like, oh, I don't want to edit anybody's work if I don't know the person. I
Oh, that's interesting.
and I actually I could see someone challenging that because oh then it's biased and subjective, and I understand that's why a lot of open reading periods and contests are read anonymously to try to like make things objective. But I don't know, like in thinking ahead to this conversation, I just kept thinking like, one, I don't know that I believe objectivity actually exists. And two, who is that serving
Ah, yeah.
genuinely?
Well, and that if you take even a step further back, what's the purpose of the edit? I think becomes that has to be the driver of those decisions.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to know why this person is making the thing they're making, what their hopes are, where it's coming from. And if I'm working with a client who's like, I really want to polish this piece and submit it to the Paris review, I'm going to read it differently than if I'm working with someone who's telling me I'm a writer and I haven't written for the past 3 years because X, Y, and Z trauma happened. And now I get really dysregulated every time I sit down to the page. So I'm going to read that. I'm going to read their work differently in that context. And it's not, again, I feel like I really want to like proactively defend, like, it's not about coddling. It's not about not like being rigorous,
Mm-mm.
caring deeply about craft. I care so deeply about craft and like taking the machine of a piece of writing and like, how do we make this work? Like, but part of it is also like, what kind of machine are you trying to build and why are you trying to build it? That, that matters just as much, I think.
It matters, and it also the way that I'm going to be able to nurture you.
Mm-hmm.
That's about relationship, right?
Yeah.
It's totally about that, and it's those soft skills that we don't tend to as editors. I mean, I'm that's my freelance work. We tend to not think about that. We're thinking about the writing. But the
Yeah.
writing is coming out of the writer. So I need to be nurturing the writer and both challenging them and supporting them so they can bring their best stuff into whatever revisions they're going to make, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it's just a stance, right? It's just a choice to choose to be that kind of editor or not. Or I had an experience earlier this year, this really great opportunity. A lot of presses and publications do like manuscript consultations. And there was one I'd kind of had my eye on, and um, they, I like applied to have that done and got approved. And so had this like really neat opportunity to share like a full length manuscript with a writer who I knew about, but they knew nothing about me. And it was a really crushing experience. Like I got really hard feedback. And what was so interesting, and it has taken me a long time to like process and think about all this. Like I, I don't I don't wish that the person had like gone easier on me because I'm autistic, but there were just some things that they said repeatedly, especially like really really pushing back against like some of the abstract things that were in my writing, that just hearing them over and over again, it did start to feel like a criticism of like how my brain works. It was complicated and messy, and also frankly it was like I actually had the feeling from the comments that the person was like really frustrated and annoyed while they were reading my work. So that was a huge like lesson for me also, because if I sit down to read someone's writing and I'm just like, this is bad, like I am not liking this, then I am not the person to read it.
Bingo, bingo, bingo.
And
Yes.
that is like an ethical obligation.
Absolutely true. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember any of the specifics of how that person communicate, particularly about the abstract? I don't know if this is too painful. I'm just curious, but like, could they have, could there have been a way for them to express it that would have, you could have received it differently?
I'm it's not too painful to ask about. I think I genuinely have like purged some of the language from my mind. So I can't immediately recall like quotes from the person, but I am confident that that yes, they could have expressed these things in a way that I would have been able to receive. It did feel, and Gail, gee, this is where I start to get like my brain spins too, because like I feel like the experience of being autistic, I know that's not what we're talking about here, but we also
But it's
kind of are.
totally relevant. It's totally relevant.
And the thing about autism, in my understanding of it, is like it is these extremes that sometimes feel like contradictions. So here I am, like knowing that I'm a person who, in some situations, when I am least masked, I am really blunt. And I have seen, especially in my closest relationships, like especially with my partner, Mo, how that cannot be received well sometimes. And it's like, no, 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 you don't understand. I'm not trying to be affectless. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm not trying, I'm just telling you the thing. So there's that. But then at the same time, there's this like rejection sensitivity dysphoria. There's like the thing that happens over time when you haven't been diagnosed and you've just learned to understand that there's something wrong about you and you don't know what it is. And then when you receive bluntness, it can feel really painful.
For sure.
And it's like, what, how are both of these things true? I mean, frankly, it has, that kind of contradiction has at times been a source of imposter syndrome for me. Like,
Mm.
where I've actually thought, and I don't believe this, but like, where I've sometimes thought, well, if I were really autistic, couldn't wouldn't I be able to handle blunt criticism better?
That's
It's
so,
like,
so fun.
anyway, I'm so yeah. Yeah, I do. I absolutely think there's a way, and thinking back, it's like I didn't even meet this person before they read my work. I mean, we should
And
have
I,
at least,
like, as an editor, I always, always, always at least offer, and I'm wondering about now, like insisting to say, we need to sit down and really
yeah,
look at each other in the eyes and get to know each other. I mean, to have something, some basis
absolutely,
interpersonally, right?
absolutely, because I think it would have helped me receive their feedback. And I think they would have maybe taken a little bit more time in how they expressed their feedback to me.
Here's a
Um,
question that follows up that one. So, one of the things that I've been doing lately in my editing practice is more and more talking about my experience as a reader
mm,
with regards to a very particular thing. And I think there's a couple of things that happens in that change. And one, I divorce myself from the authority piece.
mm,
And I so that it makes it less like those experiences in school when you were kind of scolded and critiqued
yeah,
in a way that was, top down, which can
yeah,
be, kind of traumatic and everything. But I think even more importantly, I think it's more precise. And I
mm,
think it gives the writer more information. And it's harder because, I mean, instead of writing, this doesn't work here, or more details, or, whatever, I'm saying something like, I feel disconnected in this sentence. And then I have to think about why. Again,
yeah,
as a reader and an editor, I think, why am I disconnected? Maybe it's because I'm typing. Maybe it's because
mhm,
there's no sensory details. So I feel it's hard for me to imagine what's happening. So
yep,
then you have that information and you get to do with it what you want, right?
yep.
And it owns my subjectivity, I think.
Mhm, mhm. And what it is, it's context, right? There's no context if someone says, and this person didn't say this, but if someone says, I don't like this, well, there's that is an almost contextless statement. What do I do with that?
Useless. It's
And
useless.
even just saying this is too abstract, this is too whatever. Okay, and then what? Like
Yeah,
what do I do with that?
right.
I love that you named that like this other way of doing it is more precise. It is more precise. It simultaneously owns the subjectivity of all this, which I do, you know, I want to like remember that all of this is subjective. I mean, what the fuck is art? Do people, I'm suddenly like, do people cuss on here? Is
Yes,
that
they do.
okay?
They
Like
do. They
what?
all do.
I've watched many of your
Often,
interviews.
often.
For a second, I was like,
No, yes, please bring it.
like, like what the fuck is art? What is writing? What is good writing? I mean, there even if there are some things we can generally agree on, most of it is subjective.
No,
And
that's yeah.
there's just so much crap that intersects with also like how I feel when I read a piece, what
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
been
yeah.
reading, what I'm in the mood for, what kind of day I'm having. Like there's just all this stuff. And so you're right. I think it's both more generous and more precise
I agree.
to read in this other way. And I think there's still just this old, very stiff idea that like, no, critique is like the red pen and it's authority and it's hierarchical. It's I know better than you and let
Yes,
me tell
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that doesn't feel precise to me.
That's it. No, I think it's less rigorous, frankly.
Yeah. And you're right that it also makes the job harder. I think it's really hard to read people's work. And I think it's also like I was just sort of remembering all the different like experiences I've had over the years with my work being read. And I was thinking about, and this was years and years and years ago, there was this like really neat journal that I loved. I don't even know if they exist anymore. And they accepted a piece that I'd written and I was so excited. And then they said, oh, we'll do a quick round of edits. And I was like, okay. And it was, this won't surprise you. It was an essay, but it was like doing a bunch of poetic shit, and that was integral to the piece. That wasn't just ornament added afterwards. That was how the essay was functioning. And when they sent me their edits, they had like removed all of those aspects of it. And I wrote back and I was like, "Oh, I'm a little confused. Like I feel like you're polishing away things that actually like weren't meant to be polished away." And so the piece ended up not being published. And
Was
what
that
I
your decision or their decision?
they didn't want to publish it keeping the things in. And it was so again, it was so hard at the time. It was so illuminating though because what I realized is, oh, they did not enter the world of my piece to look at it and ask, "Ooh, okay, here's what this is. Yes, we like it. We want to publish it. How can we make this thing better?" They like were in their world reading the piece and saw a different version of it that they thought they would like. So there's it's a lot of work to like to read something and not be like, how would I do this? But
Yeah,
like go into that space, which again is I think why you need to know the person
yeah,
also
yeah, yeah.
and inhabit the world that they're trying to build.
Mm,
And from there be like, okay, this is seeming unfinished. I'm having a hard time connecting here. I'm noticing this and this, but there's some like dots missing, like,
mm,
but
mm.
it's this feeling of like you're going into the piece of writing. You're not bringing the piece of writing to you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Like I always say, I want to help this piece be its best self.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not, I want to make this piece my best self.
No, 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 no.
It's,
It's yours. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really interesting. I just want to shift gears a little bit. So, we're talking about formal editing situations.
Mhm.
There's also these, in some ways, this is even more interesting and more awkward. And I think that's the autism thing. But so you have these writer friends and you're in situations where someone's like, hey, can you blurb my book? Or, you want to support each other in ways that are, at least on Substack, very kind of fluid and normal and saying good things. And what happens when you can't do it honestly? Like, what do we do? How do we manage that? I find that hard. I had a situation, it was in this sort of category. My adult novel, Falling Through the Night, had come out, and I was invited on a few podcasts. This was a woman who had interviewed me, and and it turns out in the course of the conversation, she talked about writing a novel herself.
Mhm.
And I said, "Oh, I'd love to take a look at it." So she sent it to me, and there was a handwritten note saying, "I'd love to have your honest feedback." And so I read it. It was so terrible. It was
Mm.
I hope she's not watching. It was so terrible. It was it just, she didn't know how to write and she didn't know how to do it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like trying to think about like how to talk about that in this honest response. And Aaron said she doesn't want an honest response. I said,
Mm.
but she asked me for one. He
I
said, that's a neurotypical thing. They don't mean it.
yeah.
He doesn't mean it. And you just have to say, I liked your book. I said, but I didn't like it. He said, you still have to say it. I'm like, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. So yeah, please tell
Oh,
me, what do you think?
I I
I mean, that's
just
dramatic. That's dramatic. Sometimes it's
oh
not
no.
dramatic, but
It's so and it's so hard because also I don't know if you feel this too, but like I have both that very like firm, like I don't want to say something that's not true. That feels bad to me. That I feel that a lot. I feel very sensitive to that. And then also somehow, because of the life I've lived, because of my own trauma, because of the things I've struggled with, I also like fawn a lot for
mm,
me.
mm,
And so, and I still, I mean, I can't like square those things other than to say, well, it just depends on whether I'm masked or not. If I'm not feeling safe in a situation, I am more likely to mask. And I can sometimes probably say things that I don't mean, but it's like, but it's not me saying it. And truthfully, the way these things work, it's not usually, I'm not aware of it in the moment because
right.
I'm masked. Like the whole thing in my experience with unmasking is like you just have to become aware in the moment and then you can interrupt it. It's this weird. So I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna hold this thing up. I've been like, th-
Oh,
this was my prep for this conversation. Like I was
God, it's so cool.
trying to like trace some ideas, and one thing I did write that genuinely like surprised me a little and feels relevant here is like I was thinking about how the person receiving the feedback, the person who wants to receive honest feedback does have to feel like safe enough to receive it. But I think you also have to feel safe enough to give it.
Oh, that's great. Yes, 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 yes. It's vulnerable to be honest in that way.
Yeah. And so I think I mean, I don't know how to like fix that. I also don't know what to do when you're in a situation where you're afraid to say it or you're just or it just seems clear that that's not what this person wants, which also it's like, well, how are we supposed to know? I don't understand how I'm supposed to know if the person doesn't tell, this is what you ask for. So it's such a mess.
It's a big mess.
Messy and hard.
And I think that's even in some ways that's a clearer situation other than, like other situations where I have interactions with people who I've met virtually specifically, but sometimes in person, and we have a nice connection, and then I see something they've written and it's like I feel that they're waiting for me to say something, and do I say something, and what do I say, and I want to say something supportive. So like finding creative ways, like reposting something or leaving without a note maybe, or I don't know,
Mhm.
but like, but then I have this lingering thing of like, so whatever it is I'm creating with this person, there's a big layer of falsehood, because there's this space between what I really feel and who you really are, and so
Yeah,
the shape of the relationship can't actually be real.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
don't know, maybe there's no fix for that. Maybe it's just the way it is.
And maybe it just depends on the relationship too. I mean, I can imagine feeling like okay, let's say you wrote something. I have a very hard time imagining this happening, so it feels like a good example to use. Let's say you wrote something that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I one thing that is established and clear to me is like I have so much respect for you as a writer, as a thinker, as a person. I think you could write an essay that I might think, oh, that's kind of a dud, or what, I don't know,
Oh,
whatever I
yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah.
And it wouldn't like mean much to me, I don't think.
Yeah,
Because like, well, but I know you're a great writer. Like, I
right.
don't think any of us get it right all the
Of
time.
course, of course.
So like I can imagine a situation where there's a relationship where it's like maybe the question becomes, first of all, like getting as clear as possible, like what are you looking for from me in
Yeah,
feedback?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Even if someone says, oh, give me your honest feedback, well, maybe that's a chance to say, what kind of feedback are you looking for? What, to like tease out a little more from the person. And maybe then it would become clear, oh, they're just wanting compliments, or maybe there'd be an opening suddenly to say, well, here's how it landed with me. Like, I don't know, just like, oh, like there's no such thing as too much consent, I think, in that kind of
Yeah, yeah,
situation,
yeah.
and clarity around what the person's looking for. And then maybe also sometimes, I don't know, if it doesn't feel out of integrity, maybe there are times where it's like, well, this essay was fine, but I really support this person.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, again, in the right context, I could even see like, and this isn't easy for me, and I do think this is like the autism piece, but like I could see giving someone a 5-star review if their book was fine, if it's like meaningful for me enough to know, oh, this person is like on this journey and I respect them and I care about them having success, and that feels bigger than this book, and like, okay, I'm going to give them a 5-star review. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
but I want to be clear, it's like even that, it's not easy. I get the sense that for neurotypical people, it's like easy to do that, right? I
Yeah.
feel like people like us, it's like all this work, it's like all this mapping out, it's all this like context and figuring out what we feel okay doing and why and how we can do that. But it doesn't feel easy.
It doesn't feel easy at all. No, really not. No, it's something, it's interesting because I think the closer you are to someone, the easier it is to do. I mean, and that's maybe that's obvious. Like, so something that happened. So you sent the essay about bugs
Yeah.
that I loved so much, and I was simultaneously working on a braided essay. We had braided essays at the same time, and so my partner read. I of course I had to share it with him because I was so in love with the piece, and so he read your piece, he read my piece, and I said, her piece is much better than my piece. And he said, you're right, it is. And it was fine. It is. And there is something about me at this age, at this point in my career, that I think 15 years ago would not have been this. Like, the ego doesn't, I don't feel it has as big of a role in how I react to almost any. I mean, it's not that it's not there.
Yeah.
I want my piece to be the best. Like, I want all those things to be true. I want people to
Yeah.
love it. But there's something bigger that just feels so much more rich and interesting, and like I'm just chasing something else.
Mm,
And it just
yeah.
didn't matter. Like, and actually, not only didn't it matter, I felt a relief, because that's the other piece, and maybe it's autism too. Like, when someone is just saying a bunch of nice shit, I get anxious. It's like I don't believe your yes until I hear your no. I don't believe your good stuff until I'm hearing some critical stuff, because I don't know that it's real. Maybe it is, but nobody likes every single thing that someone does.
Yeah.
So I that triggers some anxiety for me.
Yeah.
So when he said that, part of me just settled. Like, oh yeah, he's being real.
That's so interesting. I mean, I'm just trying to like notice what's happening in my body right now as we're talking about this, because there's a part of me that like there is a part of me that's like feels like give Gail reassurance. But I also don't hear you like asking for reassurance.
No,
But the
not
other
at
thing,
all. No, it's the opposite. It's like, that's not interesting.
yeah,
It's really not. It's like, and it's like better. I mean, whatever. Like, there's not an objective thing, but just just the idea that like it's like when you're playing tennis, you can play at different levels and it's okay. It's like it's if I've
Yeah.
been playing tennis for 2 years, I'm not going to be better than Martina Navratilova. Like that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Okay. There's like something trying to form in my brain right now. See, I also think this is why comparison is not precise.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, maybe that, and that wasn't necessarily a great example of that, but
No, but I think it's a great example because I think we are so often judging our work and each other's work through comparison.
yeah, which isn't useful.
And it's not useful.
No, no.
You know how many weird, poetic, meandering, braided essays I've written? Wasn't that your first one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're Martina Navratilova, and I'm the, beginning tennis student.
But I mean, but truthfully, and like I think you know this. I hope you know this. Like because I read your essay and it's really good.
It's really good. I
It's
agree. It's very strong. Yeah,
and
no, I'm very confident. Yeah, for sure.
so there's something about like yeah, saying, well, how is it compared to mine? Well, that it just like dims the ability to see how good your essay. But no, I'm glad this came up because again, I think I mean we are living in an age of comparison culture. I
Oh,
do
yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
that is how so many of us are assessing what we're doing.
Mhm.
And I think it's not precise.
No, no, you're right. You're right. You're right. But just going back to this idea that okay, let's just say hypothetically, let's just say, he says to me, I actually like Sarah's essay better,
Mm,
which is not necessarily a comparison. He's just
mm,
talking about himself.
mm, mhm.
It would have had the equivalent of a reaction in me. So, like, what I'm speaking to is that when someone's willing to say something less than flattering or less than complimentary, there is
Yeah,
a big part of me that settles and relaxes. Because what
yeah,
it says to me is that person is going to be real. I can
mm,
trust the yes because I heard the no.
yeah, yeah. I think that's true. There, I have no disagreements with that. I think there's I just think it comes back to the soft skills and like the ways we present
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
work.
It's a how. It's the how
It's
we
the,
do it.
it really is the how. Yeah. And I think that's also, I'm sure you've found this too, like that is so case by case with every client. It's
Yeah.
so depends on what they've shared and a little bit of like what I'm picking up. And I do think as someone who, I mean, I don't know if this is like a weird thing to say. I've done a lot of like healing work in these, especially in the past like 6 years of my life, especially in the past 2 or 3. And I do feel like I am like the most self-assured that I've ever been. And right, I'm 38. It's like I lived 34, 35 years of my life, like pretty convinced I like wasn't good. And with like a pretty like paper thin sense of self-worth. And I didn't know even like consciously know that for a long time. So there's the work of like becoming aware of those things of our own insecurities. And then there's the work of like doing something about it to like be a little more firm, to be a little more self-possessed. And so I also just think about, I think there are so many people walking around with a low sense of self-worth and they have no fucking idea because it's really hard. And I think people are sometimes
Right.
saying, here's my book. I'd love your honest feedback. And you understand that they don't mean it and they don't.
Oh,
How
yeah.
do you
Yeah.
bridge that?
Yeah.
I think that's part of
Yeah.
it.
You're right.
That's
Yeah.
it too, is just like, when I am my most enlightened, I just feel like any person I encounter, whether it's in a mentorship container or at Fred Meyer or in any situation, I'm going to assume this person is like sad and tender and has like a lot of shit that they're, like I just feel like
Yeah.
there's like that assumption. And so then, especially when you're reading someone's work, I mean, it just, our creativity intersects with all that stuff. Even if you're not writing about trauma, if you've experienced trauma, it's there. It's just there.
And most people have
And
experienced.
most people have. So I think there's just a little bit of that too. And just remembering, oh, I think part of what is tricky, like in the situation with the person who sent you the book, is like, I bet she had no idea that what she was asking you for, she didn't really want.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's not your responsibility to,
But if I am in an emotional leadership position with regard to this person where I understand things that she doesn't, then I do have a bigger responsibility in some way, you know.
yeah.
And
And
I think
and
people just don't know what they want. It's the point a lot of the time. I don't think I know what I want a lot of the time. And I
yeah,
feel like I've done tons of work and I'm like you,
I
I feel much better. I mean, almost 59, but like I'm very secure and I'm very on good ground most of the time. And half the time I say something and I'm like, that's no, that's actually not what I long for in my deepest heart.
yeah, absolutely.
So I
Absolutely.
think I think that the idea of just God, I always keep coming back to this idea of being in relationship in and taking the stance of honoring the person, their work. And
Mhm.
I think maybe if there's the support on one side and the authenticity on the other side, the support just gets more weight. It just does. Not in
Mhm.
the interest of puffing anyone out, but just encouraging. I think we can encourage each other and
Yeah,
everybody can do better. Everybody can write better. Everybody can learn, right? So just to
yeah,
take that energy, but there's so much discouraging energy all around us. Like,
yeah. And that's what do you do with that? I mean, that's the other thing about being kind of a strengths-based editor is like, I also think people learn better where when you can notice, well, what are the things that are interesting that are happening on the
yes,
page? What are
yes,
the
yeah, 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 yeah.
get this sense that the writer is getting really excited and not letting themselves go as far as they need to go. What are the, you know,
Yes, 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 yes. My friend from choir who she sent me an essay and I there was like these little nuggets and I'm like, oh my God, I want more, I want more, I want more. Like so I
yeah,
just sort of wanted to like pull that out and
yeah,
to do so you do that and it like, oh, I love this. I love this. Can
yeah,
can you give me more? Give me more.
yeah, yeah. And I think in that sense, yeah, feedback can be honest and encouraging.
Right.
I don't
Doesn't
think
have
they,
to be at odds.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Any last words? We're almost at an hour. God, it feels like it's just gone by so fast.
Um,
On the
just
topic or anything, what projects that you're involved in that you would like to tell people about? And
project.
I want everyone to go and look at For the Birds and all of your incredible posts and writing. I'm such a fan. I'm so picky. I'm really picky as a reader and I love your stuff. So
I yes, the last thing I want to say is you published a post this morning. I don't know what day this is going to go out, but what was the title? Tell me the title of it again. The thing you published today. Do you remember?
I don't. It's embarrassing.
About finding, no, it's
Finding your
not.
audience, I think. Finding your
It's
audience.
outside of traditional publishing. And I think that really goes hand in hand with this conversation because I think, again, what we're talking about is like nurturing your creative ecosystem on your own terms and in a way that is real and grounded and prioritizes relationships, which are more important than numbers and like big, impressive, external validating things. And I want to really recommend that everybody read that post. And I just want to name also, so you helped me with a book proposal recently. And I was like terrified beforehand. And I'm pretty sure I like sent you multiple emails and voice notes saying, you have to understand I'm really fucking sensitive and I've had really bad experiences and I'm so afraid of being told bad things about my writing. So please go easy on me. Like I was so like,
Oh,
here's
poor
all the
you.
I'm approaching this. and you received it so kindly, and you were so precise with your feedback and the places that something wasn't working, something needed more. And I had, it was such a disconfirming experience for me. It was so wonderful because it was like, oh, this can what it look like. This is what it can look like to receive this feedback. You not only made the proposal like light years better than it was, but like I came away from that experience genuinely feeling more excited about my book project. Like,
Oh my
and
God.
I mean, it really does feel like your engagement, which was depthful and skillful and close and curious and encouraging, like it was a really big deal for me. And I just, yeah, that felt worth saying.
Oh, here. It's good to hear. And that I mean, my utter deep desire, more like more than anything, I want people I work with to be excited to go back in and do it.
Yeah,
And that's the
yeah.
main thing. Like, and it's
Mhm.
hard. Revision is really, really hard. And to have someone almost being like a midwife for that process to say it's hard, but God, it's so worth it. You can do it and it's exciting and I love this and I want it, like I see it happening, and like to just like,
Yeah,
shake the pom-poms and really just like be there. Like I love that role so much, and it's great to hear that you had that experience.
yeah, 100%.
And
Yeah.
anything you can point to that you'd like people to check out of your work?
Um, I should have a really polished answer here, but no, just, you know,
Fine.
tune in. I host some really lovely, nurturing monthly workshops and co-writing sessions. Like I'd love to see some new faces there.
And
Yeah.
I've been to one and loved it, and have just the timing has not worked out since, but I had a great, great experience.
We're all like overbooked and there's a lot of things. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I only host them once a month and they're short and focused, and so it's a nice way to get some depthful nourishment with like a low stakes commitment. It
Yeah,
for anyone who's like, oh, that sounds nice, but I'm feeling busy. That yeah.
that's great. Thank you,
So,
Sarah. It's been so much fun.
yes, this feels like really an important conversation that we're having.
So thanks.